Astral Chain is easily the biggest Nintendo Switch release for this month, and in reflecting on that, I realized that some people may not know a whole lot about it, whether that be the basic plot, the gameplay, or whether or not it would be something that they're into. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you out and let you know all the things that we currently know about Astral Chain before it releases. Astral Chain is a game that I've wanted since the moment it was announced, and because of that, I tuned out a lot of the announcements, trailers, Twitter posts, and stuff like that. After all of their promotion is basically useless for me if I already know I want the game. I'm sold, you got me, no need to advertise. And this is generally how I approach games that I find even moderately interesting. However, there is one exception to this personal rule, and that is when I want to make a video, and that's why, before making this, I took a deep dive into all of the information we have available so I can share it with you. If that's something that you would like to see us do on this channel regularly for other big Nintendo Switch releases, let me know in the comments, and by clicking the like button, it's the best way to let us know when a topic resonates with you. Also, while you're down there, if you haven't already, why not click the subscribe button? It's free. But with all that stuff out of the way, let's get into the topic, starting with the story. Astral Chain is set in a futuristic society that was victim to a meteorite crash. This disaster caused a few changes that set up the world of Astral Chain, including several wormholes forming called gates that alien life forms called chimeras began emerging from, wreaking havoc on the world's population, polluting the planet with red matter, a dark energy undetectable by the human eye that seems to be causing living beings to become violent. Because of this, 90% of Earth became uninhabitable. To combat the looming threat of complete extinction, the remaining survivors created an artificial island city called the Ark, where humanity thrived peacefully. However, this ended up being just a temporary solution because the gates began to appear within the Ark. This of course reintroduces all the original problems caused by that chimera, but in addition to that, the pollution caused by the red matter is beginning to eat away at the Ark. Due to the chimeras being invisible to humans, most of the survivors are completely unaware of the actual problem, but a select few are aware of the root of the problem and established a task force called Neuron to combat it. Neuron employ living weapons called Legion, which are chimera that were captured, neutralized with armor, and weaponized. Legion are tethered to their user by a chain that links them mentally, hence the name Astral Chain. Only a select few are chosen to wield these living weapons, one of these chosen few being the player character, who is customizable, might I add. That brings me to the gameplay. I'd say in regards to its genre, Astral Chain can be best described as an action RPG sandbox game. It has a linear level structure that's facilitated by the game's hub world, the police station. Inside the police station, you'll be able to do training to get a grasp on the combat. You can buy clothes and other items to customize your character, as well as the kind you'd expect, like healing items and the like. The levels themselves will task players with solving cases, investigating crimes, and fighting chimera with the help of your legion. The game opens up with a motorcycle sequence, and this game has been compared to Bayonetta as well as Nier Automata, so there's sure to be breaks in the normal gameplay, but for the most part it'll be an on-foot action combat affair. Also, levels are graded in a way that Bayonetta players will be familiar with and can be replayed to get better grades. Depending on how well you play and the way you play during a given sequence, you'll be given a better grade and rewarded with better items. The combat system in this game is called the synergetic action system. This is what allows for the player to either control both their Neuron officer and Legion, or for you and a friend locally to control them separately, which the game's director claims will make it a harder game to play. It's worth noting that Legions can only remain active for about 100 seconds, and then they'll have to recharge their meter again before they can be used in battle. So I'm not completely sold on how fun multiplayer would ultimately end up being for the Legion player, but options are always good. You can take control of one of 5 Legion types with various playstyles. The first Legion we'll be able to use are Sword Legions, a melee type that wields swords that are used for continuous attacks and can cut through energy waves to stun enemies and make them vulnerable. These attacks can also be adjusted by slowing down time to zoom in and pinpoint specific targets, be it an enemy or barriers in the world that hinder your progress. These swords can also interfere with electronic equipment as well as be inserted into devices to access and absorb data to help with investigations. Arm Legion can be worn as a suit of armor that could be used offensively by way of powerful punches to traverse the world world via the ability to float over dangerous areas, and it can be used to move and throw heavy objects for use not only in combat, but also to clear obstacles and reach otherwise unreachable places in the world. Aero Legion are long-distance support types that use bows to fire energy arrows. Like the Sword Legion, this Legion type can concentrate to slow down time for more precise aiming. This is most useful against small targets, fast-moving enemies, aiming at weak points, and solving puzzles to progress through the world. Axe Legion, a type that's meant to be a balance between defense and offense. They can create barriers, counter attacks with their axe, inject energy into areas by stabbing them, which causes explosions strong enough to destroy special objects or surfaces only they can destroy. And Beast Legion, which are the good boy type. They're dogs, and that makes them the S tier Legion, and everything else is bad. Forget the fact that they can be ridden as mounts for much better speed and movement to make traversing through the world easier and challenges requiring speed possible, or the fact that they can track scents you expose them to during investigations and search for, as well as dig up hidden items around the world. All of that is just the cherry on top though. The most important thing, the thing that makes this game playable, no, possibly the game of the year for some people, is that you can pet the dog in Astral Chain. Your officer also has their own means of protecting themselves, their primary weapon called X-Baton that can transform into different forms that are best used in different situations. There's the small baton, which essentially works like a sword, and Blaster, which is a ranged weapon that fires in bursts. With the use of these abilities in tandem with your Legion, you can perform sync attacks when the action is timed correctly with the blue flashes that will appear over the main character. This will prompt your character and their Legion to do a joint attack that can be used in combos while dodging or when summoning the Legion. In addition to this, the chain binding the player character and their Legion can also be used for combat and what are fittingly called chain attacks, of which there are currently two known types: chain bind, an attack that has the Legion circle around an enemy or multiple enemies if you position yourself right to wrap them in the Legion's chain and tether them to the ground to make them unable to move for a limited time; and chain counter, a defensive move used in the path of charging opponents to clothesline them, slingshot them back, and leave them stunned momentarily. In addition to all of these gameplay details, PlatinumGames has been sharing a few tidbits about the development of the game, and by looking at past performance of some of the other videos we've done on this channel, it looks like you guys enjoy when we talk about game development, so let's wrap this video up by talking about some of those behind the scenes details. Astral Chain's concept was proposed by Takahisa Tora, who has worked as a game designer for PlatinumGames since 2009. Despite this decade-long tenure with Platinum, Astral Chain will be the first game he is the lead on. The direction of this game has shifted since that initial concept, being that it was initially intended to be a fantasy game with magic, but after a while in collaboration with Nintendo, the decision was made to make a shift to a cyberpunk setting, drawing inspiration from anime, specifically mentioning Ghost in the Shell in his interviews. Apart from Tora, the Astral Chain team is made up of developers that were on the Bayonetta and Nier Automata teams, which makes sense given the fact that they've been stressing the game's aim being a marriage between those two games. Tora said the first thing the team worked on during development was the character customization in an effort to ensure the player could feel like they are or could become their character. And the decision to add things like the ability to buy things from vending machines, cleaning the city, and visiting toilets were added to create an immersive experience. Another tidbit I found interesting given the collaboration between Platinum and Nintendo for this game, it's been stated that PlatinumGames typically creates their game settings before figuring out the main gameplay elements. As many of you may know, Nintendo tends to do the reverse of this. This time around though, Platinum adopted a process that is more akin to the way that Nintendo approaches their game development, as this game was designed around the concept of controlling two characters first and foremost. And this idea evolved to have these characters linked by the titular chain, as it made what was happening on screen easier to follow for the player than not having the chain involved. This addition is said to have been inspired by Namco-developed arcade game Libble Rabble that had the player control two arrows with a line strung between them. The objective of that game was to wrap the line around poles and surround enemies with it. Astral Chain is scheduled to release on the 30th of this month worldwide for $59.99 US dollars, or whatever the full price game equivalent is where you live. I'm personally excited to check it out, and I think it has a decent chance of dethroning Fire Emblem Three Houses as my 2019 game of the year so far. Just seems like more of a game that I would enjoy. Fire Emblem Three Houses was more of an exception to a rule. This game, everything about it just seems like something I would already be into. But But what do you think? Do you plan on picking up Astral Chain? Did this video help in making that decision easier at all? Do you think that people will embrace this as much as they have been some of PlatinumGames' other recent games like Nier Automata and Bayonetta? Maybe if this game is received well, that hype will transfer over to Bayonetta 3. I want to know all of that and more in the comments down below. Like I said at the top of this video, if you enjoyed it, be sure to click the like button, and if you haven't already, subscribe and ring the bell for more videos like this every Tuesday and Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. New podcasts every Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, linked in the description on our channel page and in the card of this video. Okay, that's it for me. See you next week.